it's a really good idea to envision something that is kind of well beyond your means, instead of something that you know how to do and you have the money for. Doesn't that sound crazy? Well, let me give you an example. I want you to visit www.natirar.com. I must spell that because it's Raritan backwards. Natirar. Now, the reason I'm sending you there isn't just to see the gorgeous pictures of this place. It is a marvelous example of a few things. One is somebody having vision that is so much larger than themselves that they needed other people. It's an excellent example of today's joint ventures. And it's an excellent example of how do you market to people with money. So first, let me tell you the story about it. I thought it was fascinating. The owner of the place had invited the members of the NJ 300. New Jersey 300 is a group of influential women in New Jersey. It's fashioned after a group called the Committee of 300. I think it was started in Chicago. It was a national group 30 years ago. And several states have groups that are emulated after it. And people who are in CEO roles and have owned larger companies and such, they have a different networking need than people with little tiny companies or beginners. They just do. So this group was invited to visit Natirar. And so we got to visit Bob. And I'm going to look at his name to see if I can say it correctly. Wojciechowicz. I hope I'm saying it right. Bob, I apologize if I'm messing it up. Anyway, this place is like 500 acres of beautiful rolling hills and great foliage and large buildings. And it's 100 years old. And when it was first founded, when first created, a wealthy Quaker woman owned it, and her husband managed her money. He died before she did, and when she died, the property was left in her will to become a convalescent home for women for at least 50 years. Now that's a feminist from a long time ago, because that's the early 1900s. When that time passed, the King of Morocco bought the property. And his sons went to Princeton, but from what I understand, the king never stayed overnight at the mansion or any of the places on the property. Now, a gentleman who lives nearby drives by it, sees it, and can tell that there's so much more potential for this lovely property than is being realized. And the mansion's starting to deteriorate, and the other buildings are not being as cared for as they could be. And he imagines a wonderful spa. Let's make this a destination. Somewhere in, Somerset County in New Jersey, becoming a destination. Good for him. Now this is a big project. So he contacts Richard Branson. Yep, the Richard Branson of Virgin Airlines. Now, not everybody would think on a scale of a big enough project that needs to contact him. And not everybody would have the nerve to call. So think about this. Are your ideas so small that only you can do them, and you wouldn't need to pick up the phone to call somebody who is as well connected as Richard? They connect with the King of Morocco, and the call got accepted. See what I mean? So it's not an easy process. The story has many steps. When they wanted to do their financing, they went to Lehman Brothers. Okay, now you know where Lehman Brothers is now. They couldn't quite get the deal syndicated, and in the meantime, Somerset County comes in and wants to buy the property. Well, they figured out, with that kind of connections and that kind of know-how, they would figure out how to have a ground lease for 99 years. And they are refurbishing the buildings, and they are creating the spa. See it? And most people wouldn't have thought that big, would never have called Richard Branson, would have copped out when the syndication wouldn't have worked, or they wouldn't have figured out how to do a lease. But if you're thinking big enough and you have people who are well connected working with you, there's a whole difference in the behavior. So we got this wonderful tour of the mansion and could see the renovations. So the second lesson from going to that website and listening to the story is think about who we were walking around the mansion, getting a lovely dinner at 90-acre restaurant, which is very nice. And it's understated. This is a wealthy man talking about his property to wealthy people. And it has to speak for itself. So we had a nice dinner. We had paired wines. We listened and met, we met Bob. I'm sure that there's going to be several of these women that are considering having their daughter's wedding there. Some of them will be coming back just for dinner at the 90-acre restaurant. Some will be waiting for the spa to open up. Some will want to book special nights to stay in the mansion for a retreat. It's going to make him money. So the second lesson is, when you think really large and you do have the financing for this, are you doing demonstrations? Are you doing entertainment? Are you doing show and tell at a scale that people who can afford to pay you for your services would be able to enjoy it, get excited about it, and build some excitement before it even opens? I just want to ask you if you're hosting events for prospective customers who have the money to pay for your services even before they're available.